Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to award-winning Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience, and today we bring you the story of Hall of Famer Larry Costello. Now, there are a couple of hundred people in the Basketball Hall of Fame, and each of them deserves to have their story told, and I hope that eventually I will be able to get to everyone, but what made me want to do a story on Costello is that he was the last set shooter in NBA history. The one-handed jump shot has been a standard way of shooting a basketball for around 80 years, depending on which part of the United States you are talking about. You watch the beauty of seeing Steph Curry launch one from almost anywhere on the court. In previous generations, it would have been guys like Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, or Larry Bird. It is amazing to watch the ball coming off the fingertips of a player who really knows how to shoot it. But prior to the one-handed jump shot, the fundamental way of shooting a basketball was a two-handed set shot. A player needed to get really wide open because there was no jumping on a two-handed set shot. A player from the 1920s or 1930s would set his feet toward the basket. The player would then bend his knees while holding the ball at chest level. He would grip the ball like he was about to make a chest pass, except instead of passing the ball, the player would shoot a high arching shot toward the basket and hope that it went in. Shooting percentages were much lower back then. In today's NBA, the league average for all players in the entire league is 47.5% shooting. But if you go all the way back to 1947, during the very first season of the NBA, the league-wide shooting percentage was only 28%. During that first season, the best shooter in the league by percentage was Bob Feerick, with a scorching 40% shooting from the field. He was the best shooter of his day, and today he would be considered woefully below average. That is what the one-handed jump shot has done for basketball. But Larry Costello did not play in the 1930s and 1940s. The man was born in 1931 and played in the NBA during the late 1950s and most of the 1960s. However, in upstate New York where he grew up, he was taught the old-fashioned two-handed set shot. So that is what he used throughout his entire career. He shot as low as 33% from the field during his rookie year in 1955 and as high as 48% during his prime year of 1961. But despite his old-fashioned shooting style, he was in the NBA for a reason. The man went to 6 All-Star games during his career. He played for the Philadelphia Warriors and was then able to make a move to the Syracuse Nationals, which was his hometown. 5 of his trips to the All-Star game came while he was playing for Syracuse, but the team then relocated to Philadelphia and became the 76ers, where he played one more All-Star game. And in 1959, he was in 7th place of the MVP voting. Larry Costello could flat out play basketball, and he was still on the 76ers when Wilt Chamberlain arrived. Along with Hal Greer, Chet Walker, Billy Cunningham, and Luke Jackson, they were the team that ended the championship streak of the Boston Celtics and were crowned the 1967 NBA champions. It was the only time in Bill Russell's entire career that he did not play in the finals. That was one of the most complete teams in NBA history. It was not just the Wilt Chamberlain show. The 76ers were stacked from top to bottom in 1967, but Larry Costello continued to find a place in the NBA all the way through the 1968 season when he finally retired. He played only 28 games that season for the 76ers and then suddenly retired in order to move back to his hometown of Syracuse to coach his old high school when they suddenly found themselves without a head coach. He finished the 1968 season coaching his old high school and then found a new opportunity back in the NBA. And we will be right back with more on how that took place.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with the story of Larry Costello, the last two-handed set shooter in NBA history. Now, as I mentioned before the break, Larry Costello retired from playing during the 1968 season, but in one of those rare instances, he was hired to become a head coach in the NBA with only half a season of high school coaching experience. However, he was a very respected player, and that counted for a lot. During the summer of 1968, the NBA was bringing in two brand new expansion teams. One of those teams was the Phoenix Suns, but the other team, the one that Costello went to work for, was the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, first-year teams are usually not very good because they fill their rosters with rookies and backup players from other teams. It usually takes a few years for an expansion team to build their roster and become competitive. And the Bucks were no different in that they won only 27 games that first year against 55 losses to finish dead last in the standings. But because they finished dead last, it led them to having the very first pick in the 1969 NBA draft. And as their luck would have it, that was the summer that Lou Alcindor was coming out of college. And we all know Alcindor today by the name Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. With Kareem on the team, the Bucks won 56 games and fell just short of making the NBA Finals. That was a mighty turnaround. Costello did have something to do with it because he could flat out coach, but if we are being honest about it, Kareem had a bit more to do with that positive turnaround. Then, in the summer of 1970, the Bucks acquired Oscar Robertson in a trade in 1971, and they won the entire NBA championship. It was only their third year of existence, and they had gone from worst place to the champions. That is a fast turnaround. Costello coached the Bucks for 8.5 years and went to the playoffs 6 times with the Bucks. He went to the NBA Finals twice, winning one of them. And with all of this success, he never tried to teach his players the two-handed set shot. While that is the technique that he used, he knew as much as anyone else that the one-handed jump shot was the new way to properly shoot a basketball, and he was completely fine with that. And that is the mark of a great coach. He was willing to innovate and keep up with the changing playing styles. A great coach is also able to use the talents of each of his players to their fullest. With those Bucks teams in the early 1970s, he got the most out of each player and was a top contender for 5 straight seasons. Things started to fall apart in 1975 as players started to age and retire. They also traded away Kareem to the LA Lakers. Costello only stayed for 18 games that following season, and during those 18 games, he won only 3 of them. He was replaced by coaching legend Don Nelson. Now, after taking a year off from coaching, he came back to the NBA and coached the Chicago Bulls for a single season in 1979. He did not even finish that season. He only coached the first 56 games, and he only won 20 of them. But for most of the 1980s, he was the head coach at Utica College. Now, here's another thing that Costello was known for as a coach. He brought new innovation to the NBA. He was one of the first coaches to take advantage of game film. He regularly went through game film with his Bucks players. At the time, it was state of the art. Nobody else in the NBA was doing that yet, but today it is considered a standard form of preparation for any team. To have the chance to watch and study your own tendencies and that of your opponents is invaluable. Costello pioneered this new level of preparation, as he was able to take those early 1970s Buck teams deep into the playoffs year after year. The rest of the league quickly adopted the practice, and soon everybody was studying film to prepare for games. Today, all NBA players and coaches have tablet computers with access to the NBA central database of game film. Today, a player or coach can pull up any play from any game in the entire league. Studying video today is now standard practice throughout the world of basketball at all levels. This is Costello's contribution to the game beyond his all-star play and championship coaching. Because of his contributions and the pioneering in film study, he was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2022 as a contributor. You know, for a guy who used an old-fashioned shooting style, he was on the cutting edge of study. In one man, you had the embodiment of old basketball and new basketball. He used a shooting style that went back to before the 1950s, but was at the forefront of using game film when nobody else was. Larry Costello was old school basketball and new school basketball in a single person. And that is what made him so interesting in the history of the game. It's like he stretches the entire 20th century in terms of basketball development. So the next time you see a player or coach looking at video, remember that it was Larry Costello who pioneered that practice. And I know what you might be thinking, if Costello had not been the guy to start using game film, it would have been somebody else eventually. And you would be right. But it wasn't somebody else. It was Larry Costello. He was the first. Now, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, everything that we see in basketball was started by someone. The person does something that nobody else had done before, and then the thing is proved so effective that it quickly gets copied and adopted by the rest of the basketball community. And that was Larry Costello's contribution to the game, and we're all better for it. That's all we have today on Larry Costello and his two-handed set shot. Join us next time when we share the story of how the 1960 United States Olympic team was selected, and it was very different from how they picked the team today. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find shorter historical posts as well as comments comments, and discussion starters on today's game. I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care, and see you soon.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.